By your blood, I can't resist the enemy, the evil flood. Your blood that cleanses and forgives and gave me life. The blood of my Yeshua. I can survive by the power of your blood.
Acts chapter 7 verse 35. Acts chapter 7 verse 35. We were in the Ruach, we were in the Spirit, and now it's time to what? Get a little bit of truth in our kishkis, right? How many are ready for the word? Okay, it's going to be short, but it's going to be told. Not going to be a lot today because we want to get in and have time for Chavarah, to eat, and to get to know one another and spend time at the pool, and then go into evening worship, so we want to take advantage of that time as well in being Israel. Maseh Shlichim, Acts 7:35. This is Moshe, Acts 7:35. This is Moshe whom they, that's our people, refused, saying, who made you a ruler and a shofet? The same one did Yahweh send to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hands of the Malach Yahweh, which is Yeshua, who appeared to him in the bush. Now notice, the Torah doesn't say that the Malach Yahweh or the angel of Yahweh appeared to Yeshua, but the Brit Chadashah says that Yahweh that appeared to Moshe in the bush, in the Sneh HaEsh, was actually the Malach Yahweh, the angel of Yahweh, or the back parts of Yahweh, or the lesser Yahweh, Mashiach Yeshua. He brought them out after he had shown them wonders and signs in the land of Mitzrayim, and in the Sea of Reeds in the wilderness 40 years. So again, this I'll be preaching this message, and let's call it No Notes Shavuot. How many remember many years ago, you had to be here to remember, a message that I called No Notes Passover? And we were just led by the Ruach, whatever Yahweh told me to say, that's what I said. So we'll call this No Notes Passover. All I have here is scripture. I don't really have any special notes. Let's see what Yahweh does. And he brought them out after he had showed them signs and wonders in the land of Mitzrayim, and in the Sea of Reeds, and in the wilderness for 40 years. This is Moshe, who sent to the children of Israel a Navi, a prophet, shall the master of Yahweh, your Elohah, raise up to you from your Israelite brothers, like me. To him, Darrell, you shall listen. This is he that was in the Eidata, or the Ecclesia, the congregation of Israel, in the wilderness, with the Malach Yahweh. We know that to be Yeshua, the messenger of Yahweh, who spoke with Moshe on Har Sinai, and with our Ahavot, who received the living words to give to us, to whom our Ahavot would not obey, but threw him from them, and in their Levim turned back again to Mitzrayim. So this is the day we celebrate the giving of the Torah and the giving of the Ruach HaKodesh. But we got a problem. By definition, our people don't like to listen. Wouldn't you say that's a problem, a spiritual problem? When the Ruach speaks, we don't like to listen, and that has not changed. One of the problems in the Messianic or the Nazarene Israelite movement is we are into various forms of Gnosticism or seeking knowledge, but we are not necessarily interested always in listening to a fresh word from the Ruach HaKodesh and what the Ruach HaKodesh wants to say. And today, we were singing in the Ruach, we were worshiping in the Ruach, we were praying in the Ruach, because that's the living words. Notice that Yahweh gave the Torah in verse 38, Acts 7:38, not just to be written words, but to be living words. And Rachel gave us a living song. And we had a living time of worship and a living time of praise. So it is the living words and the written words, but the problem is our avot, our fathers, would not obey. But through Moshe and the living words he came with, and Yahweh who he represented, away from them, and in their hearts, their Leviim, they turned back to Mitzrayim. In other words, you and I can be saved, but if we're not willing to receive a fresh word and to hear Yahweh's voice in a personal relationship with Yahweh, we could be here and not be here. Do you understand? We can be here, but in our hearts, we can turn back to Mitzrayim. It's possible to wear a talit, but in your heart, be back in Mitzrayim. It's possible to wear a kippah and to worship Yahweh and go through all the motions and go through all the right things and say all the right things, but in your heart, to turn back to Mitzrayim. And how do we turn back to Mitzrayim? The same way our fathers did. When Yahweh wants to speak a new word, a fresh word, a confirming word, a covenant word, to renew his covenant, his promises, and his word to us, in our hearts we close down, we turn back. It's not of Yahweh, it's of the devil, it's tongues, it's this, it's that. I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that. We limit the Holy One of Israel. Hello? And the word of Yahweh says, do not tempt Yahweh like your fathers tempted him in the wilderness when they limited the Holy One of Israel. When you limit the Holy One of Israel, you tempt the Holy One of Israel. Meaning, he can heal because he does heal. He can fix and repair lives and relationships, and he can speak new music, new songs, new revelation, new prophecy, new words to a vibrant, living people, because the Torah is not just the written word, the Torah is the living word. And the one who sends those living words is the Malach Yahweh, or Yeshua, the one that met Moshe Rabbeinu in the Sneh Ha'esh, the burning bush. Because the messenger is alive, the covenant is alive, and because the covenant is alive, the words are alive. So when we come to shul, it's not just about liturgy and reciting the same things over and over again. It is for what we saw today, the living words of the living Yahweh, because the messenger is alive, and the messenger wants to depart and deposit in our spirits, in our ruach, living words, which are written words, because the written words can be made living words, and the living words can be made written words, and he takes the living words and writes them in the ark of our heart. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So Yahweh knows how to take the living words and make them settled words in our heart. He knows how to take the settled words or the written words and quicken them by the Ruach HaKodesh, so that those who worship Yahweh must worship him in Ruach and Emet, because the time has come, woman, and the hour is when the Father seeketh such to worship Yahweh. Yochanan 4 and 23. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So what did our forefathers do? Because Moshe brought living words, that the living Yahweh, they didn't want to hear his voice. And they said, Moshe, we trust you. Of course, we don't trust you, but we kind of trust you. Go hear his voice. Yahweh said, look, I'm coming in a cloud. I'm coming in a bush. I want the people to hear my voice. And the people said, no, Moshe, you go and hear the voice of Yahweh. So we always provoke the Holy One of Israel. Amen. It's something in our blood. It's something in our genes. We don't listen. And we don't desire the fresh, living voice of Yahweh. This is Moshe. Which Moshe are we talking about? Moses Washington?
No.
Moses Cleveland?
No.
Grover Moses Alexander?
No, Moshe Margate.
Just so you don't get confused, Yahweh says in verse 38, this is the Moshe and the Israelite people that was the church in the wilderness. Now, in many of your translations, including your Reina Valera, it probably says the, Ecclesia, or the church in the wilderness. Is that a good translation? Absolutely. Why? Because the body of believers, or our fathers, that hardened their heart against the Ruach HaKodesh and the living words, were called the Ecclesia, or in Aramaic, the Edatah, or in Hebrew, Edat Yisrael, meaning Israel was the church, meaning Israel is the church, meaning Israel will always be the church, because Yahweh doesn't want us confused. Yahweh says that these folks that were receiving the living words from Yahweh was the ecclesia in the Greek, edata in the Aramaic, edat in the Hebrew. It was the church in the wilderness. And praise Yahweh for the King James Version that says church, so that we know that there is no difference between Israel and the church. They are one and the same.
Amen. Hallelujah.
There it is. I'm getting some holy looks.
Hallelujah.
Maseh Shlichim 7:38 says, this is Moses leading the church. Now when we hear that, we go, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, man? Moses didn't lead the church, he led the children of Israel. Right, you got it. You can call me Ray, you can call me Jay, you can call me May, just call me righteous. Israel was the Kehillah, the Ecclesia, and so Yeshua said, I have come to build my Ecclesia, and the gates of Hades, or Sheol, shall not prevail against this Ecclesia. Baruch Hashem Yahweh, somebody. So, but even though the Ecclesia, or the Edat Yisrael, was the congregation in the wilderness, our fathers would not obey the Spirit. We got the written word, but we did not obey the Spirit of the word. Nothing has changed, has it? Some of the most... Can we talk?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Darryl, I know I can always talk to you. Some of the most hate-filled, short-tempered, irreverent, unloving people that I have ever seen in my life make tzitzit, wear tzitzit, blow shofars, and have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof, and there is no love, there's no mercy, there's no forgiveness. Let me tell you something. A tree is known by its fruit. Let me tell you something. In this movement, when they finish with you, they shoot you, they stab you, and they put you out the back of the building to pasture. Some of the most mean-spirited people, and that's what happened. We received the Torah, the letter of the Torah, but the spirit of the Torah. And didn't Yeshua come? What was Yeshua's main ministry? What was the problem that he had with our fathers? The same problem that Moshe Rabbeinu had with our fathers. He said, you want to know the spirit of the Torah? Here it goes. You've got 100 sheep. One wanders off and goes into a pit, and the letter of the Torah says, don't work at Shabbat. The spirit of the Torah says, leave the 99 and find the one that was lost. That's Torah. That's the letter of the Torah. That's also the spirit of the Torah. And that's the proper way to interpret the Torah. And Yeshua said, I have not come to destroy or misinterpret the Torah. I have come to fulfill. That doesn't mean I've done Shabbat. You don't have to. That doesn't mean I celebrated Shavuot. You don't have to. Fulfill means I've shown you how to bring the letter of the Torah into a living fulfillment of love, mercy, and to show you the intent and the heart of the letter, so that I have not come to abolish it. Does not mean I've come to fulfill it. It means now you can go to church, or now you can go to the mosque. No, it means I've come to fulfill it, meaning to show you how the flow goes in a full life. A fullness of Torah can now flow in your life because you've grasped the spirit and not merely the letter. Does this make any sense?
Yes, sir.
It's not Torah versus the spirit, or law versus grace. It is, I have come to show you that if you're a real Shabbat keeper and you see someone sick on Shabbat, you will get your derriere in the car, start the engine, and drive that person to the medical room, and drive that person to the emergency room, and not say you can't drive because of Shabbat. You've got the Shabbat, but you don't have the spirit of the Shabbat. And the emet without the mercy of mother's Torah will kill you. We need father's Torah and mother's Torah. And mother's Torah shows you how to properly interpret the Torah with mercy. And mercy rejoices against judgment. When Yahweh's mercy breaks through, it always rejoices against any possible judgment. Am I violating the Torah by moving on Shabbat, by starting a car, by kindling a flame? I don't know. And to be frank with you, I don't much care. I want to walk like Yeshua did. And Yeshua said when David and the Talmidim of David and the servants were hungry on the Shabbat, they went through the fields and they picked corn and they ate corn and they worked and they reaped. And reaping is a form of laborious work. It is not menucha, it is work. And they did not break the Shabbat. They even entered the temple and took of the lechem hapanayim, which is unlawful for anyone to eat other than the Kohanim. And David was not a Kohen, and he entered into the Makom HaKadosh, and he ate the bread of the faces, or the lechem hapanayim, and there was no sin to him. That's what it means to be Israel. Israel knows the Torah, but always errs on the side of mercy against judgment. And mercy, in other words, we seek. What's the best day to work for lost souls? Shabbat. What's the best day to lay hands on people so they can get healed? Shabbat. What's the best day to build the kingdom? Shabbat. What's the best day to collect money and stick a basket under your nose? Shabbat. Now, the legalism says, ooh, we don't handle money on Shabbat.